So, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. We will continue the discussion on the losses, particularly dito na tayo sa short sales. So, short sales is the sale of stocks which the seller does not own. He merely borrows the stock certificate through or from his stockbroker and subsequently buys or covers the stock to complete the transaction, thereby postponing the delivery to a later date. So in this case, the seller merely speculates, and if the price decreases, magkakaroon siya ng capital gain. On the other hand, if the price increases, he will incur a capital loss. So, discuss natin to ngayon. I-discuss natin siya further para mas maintindihan natin. So, what happened here was that ikaw, nag-speculate ka na bababa yung price ng stocks later. So, naisip mo ngayon na magbenta. So, magbebenta ka ngayon ng stocks while hindi pa bumaba yung price. So, nagborrow ka ng mga stock certificates at binenta mo ngayon yung stocks na hiniram mo. So, binenta mo yung stocks na hindi mo naman pagmamayari. Once nakabenta ka ngayon, babayarin mo later yung original owner ng stocks by buying similar stock pero at a lower price na. So bumili ka ng stocks at a lower price na. So dito sa short sales, the seller merely speculates. Kaya if the price decreases, kung bababa yung price sa future, magkakaroon siya ng capital gain. Pero kapag mag-increase pa yung price sa future, capital loss naman yan. Okay, so example from your similar sa book ninyo. L speculates that the fair value of SM shares will decrease next week due to an adverse business deal. C, unaware of the situation, was lured by L to buy SM shares at 120 per share for later delivery. So, si L, nag-speculate siya na bababa yung price next week. Si C naman, yung buyer natin, binili niya yung sell na binibenta ni L. Yung stocks na yun is hiniram niya or currently wala siya ang actual stocks at 120. So, nag-set na sila ng price na 120 yung per share. So, number one, if the fair value of the shares increases to 125 sa future, at the later date, mangyayari dito is, L should recognize capital loss of how much? 5 pesos per share. So, yung first, yung dito, in-expect niya na bababa yung price na sa next week, kaya 120 yung pricing niya ngayon. Pero nung nag-next week na, ang nangyari, 125 pala yung per share. So, lumaki pala yung price ng stocks. And therefore, 125 minus 120 or kasi ito yung selling price. So, selling price minus 125 na cost. So, you have 5 na loss. Next is, what if yun naging totoo yung speculation niya, bumaba talaga to 110 pesos per share. So, in this case, magkakaroon siya ng gain of since 110 yan, so selling price niya is 120 minus cost na 125. So you will have 110. So you will have 10 na capital gain. Next we have is the wagering losses. So wagering losses, ito yung losses sa gambling. And ito, this is only deductible to the extent of the wagering gains. So, kung ilan lang yung napanalunan sa gambling, dun mo ima-minus yung wagering losses mo. And next, we also have worthless stocks muna in worthless stocks in page 496. So, worthless stocks, from the term itself, worthless na, meaning charged off na yan. Hindi yung unrealized lang, like shrinkage in the value of stocks, hindi ganyan. Dapat naging worthless na para makonsider siya as tax deduction. So, before si MEPA is hindi allowed yung ordinary loss dito, meaning only those capital losses lang ang mare-recognize. Only worthless stocks will only be recognized as capital losses, meaning yung mga ordinary loss, or rather yung mga dealer in securities or yung mga Philippine banks or trust companies na ang inventory talaga nila is securities, or they really do buy and sell securities in their operations. Yung mga stocks na nagiging worthless is before sa SIMEPA is hindi yan nire-recognize as loss, but after SIMEPA it can now be considered as loss, pero sa kanila it's ordinary loss. Kung hindi ka naman dealer in securities, or hindi ka naman banko or trust companies or any entity that buy and sell securities in its operations, then capital loss yung mare-recognize natin kapag may worthless stocks tayo. Next is the abandonment losses. So, abandonment losses, this is in page 505. So, sa page 505, dun nyo mababasa yung abandonment losses. And accordingly, sa abandonment losses, if the contract area where petroleum operations are undertaken, yan yung na-abandon, yung in relation to petroleum operations, yan yung na-abandon, then all E&D, all accumulated E&D expenses are allowable deductions. So, kapag petroleum operations, then if it is a producing well, yan yung na-abandon, then when we say producing well, it is a well na may na-extract tayong resources such as oil or gas. If yan yung ma-abandon, then ang ating allowable deduction is the unamortized cost and the undepreciated cost ng mga equipment directly used. So, yan yung allowable deductions natin if producing well. Next is the exchanges solely in kind pursuant to mergers or consolidations in page 497. So, in a merger or consolidation involving an exchange of stock solely for stock or security solely for security or stock, there will be no losses to be recognized. So, wala talagang losses na mare-recognize. No loss as deduction, whether stock to stock yan, securities to stock or another security, even if with cash and other property, wala talaga tayong losses if it is related to mergers or consolidation. When in addition to stock, there is cash and property, so received, meron tayong gain, if any, na mare-recognize, pero still, wala pa rin tayong loss na mare-recognize. So, there is no loss as deduction even if meron tayong cash and other property. Pero in that case, kung meron cash and other property, meron tayong, accordingly, meron tayong gain na mare-recognize as taxable for tax purposes. And this is not exceeding the sum of the money, yung cash, and fair market value of any property received. So, yan lang yung ating gain. It should not exceed the sum of the cash and fair market value of the property received. So, similar with the illustration in your book sa page 497. So, ang nangyari dyan is si Francis Company is In page 497 case A, so ang nangyari, si Francis Company, nag-merge daw sila ni Villamin Company into Villamin Company. So, ang natitira lang is si Villamin Company. So, we have here Paul, na isang shareholder ng Francis Company. Dapat daw i-give up niya yung shares niya sa Francis Company. And in exchange, makaka-receive siya ng shares ng Villamin plus cash and cash of 30,000 and property na 10,000. So, yun yung nangyari dyan sa case A. So, tandaan nyo kapag merger or consolidation yan, wala talagang loss na marirecognize, and if ever na may gain na ma-recognize natin dyan, it is limited up to the cash and fair market value of property received. So, kung mapapansin nyo sa page 497, although may gain tayo na 100,000, ang gain lang na marirecognize for tax purposes is only 40,000, which is 30,000 cash plus property valued na 10,000. Sa page 498 naman, sa question 2, ano yung adjusted cost basis? So, the adjusted cost basis is yung cost ng shares na na-surrender natin, which is 90,000, minus the cash and property received na 40,000. Pero idadagdag natin dyan yung gain na na-recognize natin, which is basically equivalent to the cash and property received na 40,000. So, accordingly, adjusted cost basis is 90,000. Bakit yan pinapakita? Kasi if you would look at case B, okay, so sa case B naman, ang nangyari, there is loss na nangyari, pero 'di ba basta loss, it should not be recognized for tax purposes. So sa question 2 natin, yung adjusted cost basis natin is still the actual cost ng na-surrender na shares minus the cash and property received, plus wala na tayong idadagdag dyan na gain. So mangyari, 90,000 cost minus cash and property received na 40,000, you will have adjusted cost basis of 50,000 in comparison dun sa previous natin na sinolve na question 2 sa case A. So, next is, next sa atin dito is yung bad debts. So, let's proceed sa bad debts, which is, hindi ko na yan i-discuss because I have already discussed that sa sa inclusion in gross income, na kailangan, ang tandaan lang natin sa bad debts is dapat it should be written off. So, hindi lang siya yung allowance, but rather it should be written off. And in relation naman sa related parties, kung yung bad debts na yan ay nangyari because of related parties yung dalawa, then hindi yan siya deduction. So, dito na tayo sa depreciation. So, sa depreciation naman, same definition ng depreciation under IA, wherein this is due to exhaustion of property, wear and tear, ganun. So, however, in addition to that, sa tax, yung depreciation na tinatawag nating depreciation for tax purposes, it also includes the amortization of intangible assets as long as with definite useful life. Kaya, yung mga goodwill, 'di ba, since hindi naman yan definite yung useful life nila, infinite yung useful life nila, so wala tayong amortization. So wala ring mare-recognize na amortization for tax purposes. Dito sa tax, so we call them depreciation, whether tangible property yan, like yung usual na PPE, or intangible property na mga intangible assets natin na supposedly amortization yung tawag natin dyan sa kanila. Okay. So, the requisites for deductibility, so the usual lang na kailangan ginagamit din sa business, kailangan may useful life. So, same sa IA, walang depreciation for land, and then allowance for depreciation must be reasonable. So, paano siya maging reasonable? Kaya yung tax code natin, meron tayong mga methods of depreciation na kailangang gamitin. So, we have straight line method, tapos meron din tayong declining balance, and accordingly, declining balance you should use a rate not exceeding twice the rate. So, until double declining balance lang dapat. Hindi pwede yung more than double declining balance. So, pwede yung 150%, pwede rin yung double declining balance. Some of the years digit method and other methods prescribed by Secretary of Finance. Next is the depreciation of property used in petroleum operations, which is in page 502. So, after that is yung sa mining operations naman. So, kapag petroleum operations yan, ang tandaan lang natin is, if the properties are directly related sa production, ginagamit siya sa petroleum operation, production of petroleum, yes, and or if it is not directly related to the production. Kasi if it's directly related, accordingly, straight line method yan or declining balance method. And yung useful life natin is shorter period between 10 years or the actual useful life. So, whichever is shorter between 10 years or useful life. If useful life is, let's say, 20 years, so dapat 10 years yan. Pero if useful life naman natin is like 5 years lang, so 5 years yung gagamitin natin. Kasi yun yung shorter life. If it is not directly related to production, ang gagamitin mo lang is straight line method and always yung useful life natin is at 5 years. Now, kapag mining naman, ang titingnan naman natin dyan is the number of useful life. Okay, number of years natin. So, if the life of the property is 10 years or less, normal rate of depreciation, which is the actual useful life. Pero kapag life of the property is more than 10 years, then it is depreciated over any numbers between 5 and expected life. So, between 5 years and the expected or the actual useful life. So, that's the difference between petroleum and mining. Sa mining, yung useful life titingnan natin, pero kapag petroleum operations, we will look at if it's directly related or not directly related sa production. Kapag naman sa mga properties in relation to NRA, ETB, or RFC, yung property nila na used in business located in the Philippines, yun lang yung pwedeng mag-recognize sila ng depreciation expense for tax purposes. Now, in relation sa depreciation on vehicles, motor vehicles, in page 501, meron tayong mga rules. So, first is, letter A, ang point lang dyan is, kailangan meron tayong sufficient evidence. Kung walang sufficient evidence regarding the purchase, walang depreciation allowed. And letter B, only one vehicle for land transportation, so mga sasakyan, allowed for the use of an official, and it should not exceed 2.4 million. Why? Because if it exceeded 2.4 million, the land vehicle exceeded 2.4 million, then there will be no depreciation allowed. Okay? So, land vehicles exceeding 2.4 million, yung mga yachts, yung mga helicopters, airplanes, aircrafts, sila, no depreciation allowed sila. Yan yung mga tinatawag nating non-depreciable vehicles. Pero kapag itong mga yachts, itong mga helicopters, airplanes, aircrafts, yung mga land vehicles more than 2.4 million, if the business of the taxpayer is transport operations talaga or lease of transportation equipment, then such vehicles, such yachts, such helicopters can be considered subject to depreciation. Pero kung hindi naman yan ginagamit hindi naman mainline of business ng taxpayer is transport operations, normally, ito sila are not depreciable vehicles. And if they are not depreciable vehicles, hindi rin natin pwedeng i-claim as deduction yung mga maintenance expense as well as input tax on purchases. So, next is depletion. So, depletion, diba? Depletion of oil and gas wells and mines Depletion is related naman to sa mga uh, natural resources. So, yung mga wasting assets natin, di ba? Under IA, we know na ginagamit natin sa kanila is depletion. So, parang depreciation to, pero natural resources. So, itong depletion natin of oil and gas wells and mines, this can also be claimed as deduction for tax purposes. Why? Kasi, para ma-recover natin yung cost of wasting assets. So, di ba kapag yung natural resources, as they are extracted and then consequently, mabebenta yan, yung wasting asset is depleting. So, bumababa yung value ng wasting asset and therefore, kailangan ma-recognize yung depletion sa accounting and also, for tax purposes, kailangan ma-recognize siya as deduction. So, the method of depletion is cost depletion method. So, I think alam nyo na yan sa IA nyo. And, pero meron tayong limitation. Meaning, although cost depletion method yung ginagamit natin for the wasting asset before the commercial production, may limit tayo na capital invested in the mine. Ibig sabihin, yung allowance natin for depletion is, if it is more than the capital invested, then yung excess na yun is hindi na natin mare-recognize as deduction. So, we are only limited up to the total amount of the capital invested sa mine. Okay, so, commercial production, I mentioned commercial production kasi if you could still remember IA, so commercial production, in the case of mining company, it is engaged in commercial production kapag nag-extract na tayo at nagbebenta na tayo ng minerals from a mine. Okay? After production in commercial quantities has commenced, ito na naman yan, deduction of the intangible E&D drilling cost. So, as to the definition ng exploration expenditures, development expenditures, E&D, nandyan yan sa book ninyo, you can just read them and similar lang siya sa point sa IA natin. Okay? So, these are the ways to determine the deductibility. If the E&D is incurred for non-producing wells and mines, outright expense yan, meaning it is deductible in the year incurred. Pero if it is incurred for producing wells and mines, yung E&D is incurred for producing wells and or mines, there is this option of the taxpayer to either deduct in full outright expense or capitalize and amortize. So, next is as to the exploration and development expenditures for computing taxable income from mining operations. So, that would be in page 504. So, tandaan natin, the total amount deductible should not exceed 25% of the net income from mining operations. So, ang total amount deductible natin, therefore, is lower between the actual E&D at saka yung 25% times net income from mine operations. Now, ano yung net income from mine operations? That's basically gross income minus yung mga allowable deductions natin related to mine operations, which is also provided in your book. So, you will have your net income from mine operations. Sa letter B naman, actual exploration E&D expenditures minus 25% of the net income from mining shall be carried forward to the succeeding years until fully deducted. So, in this case naman, kapag yung actual E&D natin is higher, then, of course, kailangan mag-minus tayo ng 25% of the net income from mine operations. So, you'll have your E&D carryover, which can be carried over for the next succeeding years until maubos yan. Okay, so yan yung ating depletion amount deductible. In relation naman sa NRA, ETB, or RFC, same as before, makaka-recognize lang sila ng depletion if it is located, if the mine or the wasting asset is located within the Philippines. So next is the charitable and other contributions. So as to the requisites for deductibility, before yan, ang point lang dito is that if magdo-donate yung isang tao, may chance siya na ma-claim niya yun as deduction. Okay? And one thing to note is taxpayers should be engaged in business. So the requisites for deductibility, yan, paid or made within the taxable year, made to the Philippine government. So ito sila yung mga donees natin, makaka-receive ng donation. Provided din yan sa book ninyo in page 507 to 508. And letter C must be evidenced by adequate records or receipts. So, of course, itemized deduction, kailangan substantiated. And we have two types of charitable and other contributions. It's either deductible in full or deductible with limit. Kapag deductible in full, means yung total amount donated, yun yung maklaim mo as deduction. Pero kapag deductible with limit, then there is limit, which i-discuss natin yan. So, if full yan, kailangan our donees are the following. So, number 1, number 2, and number 3. Number 1, it should be Government of the Philippines. Pero, take note, an other additional requisite niya is kailangan it's to be used in priority activities. So, priority activities accordingly are the following. And then number 2, donations to certain foreign institutions or international organizations. And then number, in compliance with agreements, treaties, or special laws. And number 3 naman, donations to accredited NGO or the non-profit domestic corporations organized and operated exclusively for the following. Okay? So, yung asterisks dyan is due to the requisites, additional requisites that the taxpayer must satisfy para maging deductible in full yung donations natin for the accredited NGOs, which are, these are the following requisites. Kailangan not later than 15th day of the 3rd month. So, meaning, that would be next year, 3rd month, March 15. Okay, so kailangan yung donation ngayong year is fully utilized until the 15th day of March. And letter B, the administrative expense shall not exceed 30% of the total expenses. And letter C, kapag dissolution, yung assets ng NGO will be distributed accordingly to another non-profit with the same purpose, for similar purpose, or to the state for public purpose, or to another organization as decided by the court. Next is the contributions deductible with limit. So as you could see, it is contribution to the government of the Philippines for public purpose. So nawala na dito yung priority activities. So any purpose, any activities as long as for public purpose. And letter B, those made to accredited domestic corporation for the operating exclusively for the following. And letter C, those made to NGO. So ito yung letter C na yon, if yung requisites dito is hindi fully satisfied, ang mangyayari, hindi na yan contributions at full, deductible at full, but rather contributions deductible with limit na yan. So what's the difference between this and this? Itong letter B, accredited domestic corporation, so that refers to for-profit na mga organizations. Pero they are just operating for this, in these fields. Yung sa letter C naman, non-government organizations yan. Okay? Pero yun nga, it's not fully satisfied yung mga requisites dito. Kaya, with limit lang yung ating deduction. So, since deductible with limit ito, yung limitation natin is provided here. It is computed by multiplying 5% or 10%, depende yan kung corporation yan or individual taxpayer, respectively, to the taxable income, as long as, kailangan take note, that's the taxable income before charitable contributions. So, multiply by 5% or 10%, yan yung ating deductible charitable amount. So, example sa similar lang sa book ninyo. So here is the sample illustration. We have gross income and so on. Okay. So yung gagawin natin dito is to determine ano yung mga charitable contributions that are deductible in full and ano naman yung mga charitable contributions that are deductible with limit. So, we have here priority project. So, yan yung full. For public purpose, so yan yung limit. Accredited domestic. So, di ba yan yung limit. And then, proprietary educational institution. So, was it mentioned sa mga list natin before? Diba wala? So, in that case, non-deductible contributions yan. Contributions to party list candidates still, hindi rin yan kasama sa listahan. Therefore, non-deductible contributions. So, we'll just have to compute since meron tayong limit, so we have to compute how much is the limit. Ko-compare natin yan sa actual na contributions nila. So, first is, of course, the gross income, 6 million, tapos operating expenses na 3 million. So, you will have your taxable income before the contributions na 3 million. Deductible in full, so wala nang limit, diretso 200,000. And then, yung contributions with limit natin, i-compare natin yung actual versus limit. So, the actual is 100 plus 100, kaya 200,000 yan. Yung limit naman natin is 3 million. That's the taxable income before contributions. Multiplied by 5%. Kasi, bakit 5%? Because it is a corporation. Okay? Corporation. And if it is individual, 10% yan. So, multiply by 5%. So, that's 150,000. Choose whichever is lower. So, 150,000 yung ima-minus natin. So, you will have total taxable income of 2.05 million. Okay. Next deduction is research and development. So, di ba we know that research and development, these are expenses na gagastusin natin if we want to launch a product. So, before launching a product, we will do market research. We will ensure na yung made-develop natin na mga prototypes for the product are feasible. Or, pwede rin yung mga research and development expenses. These are expenses na gagastusin mo if you want to improve your processes related to your production. So, para mas ma-improve yung production, para mas maka-create ng value. So, not all R&D expenses are deductible. That's why meron tayong requisites for deductibility. So, first is, it should be related sa business. Second, it is not treated as ordinary and necessary expense. And letter C, okay, chargeable to capital account, but not chargeable to property. So, itong letter B or letter C, these are provided as requisites kasi if hindi natin yan masusunod, we will be double deducting or double deduction yung mangyayari. Meaning, if you want to consider it as R&D expense, separate line item, kailangan hindi mo siya na-recognize as ordinary and necessary expenses. So, if you could remember the list of itemized deduction, di ba first na deduction natin dyan is yung ordinary and necessary expense. So, if na-recognize mo na yan dito, hindi mo yan siya pwedeng ma-recognize under here. Also, sa letter C naman, if you have recognized it as depreciation, kasi you capitalized it sa property, tapos you recognize depreciation, hindi mo siya pwedeng i-recognize sa R&D expense. Okay? So, these are included as requisites para ma-avoid yung double deduction. So, amortization period. So, di ba we have mentioned that R&D expense are incurred para makabuo ng magandang product, okay? Marketable na product. So, for tax purposes, we can only recognize R&D expense kapag na-realize na yung profits, or rather, ma-realize na yung benefits from such expenses. So, meaning, we can only recognize R&D the moment na ma-launch yung product. So, how can we recognize R&D? So, by amortizing it. So, kaya meron tayong amortization period. So, amortization ng period, start ka mag-deduct ng R&D expense not less than 60 months. Beginning with the month in which the taxpayer first realizes benefits from such expenditures. Okay, so, yan lang yung parang additional concept under R&D. Kailangan mag-amortize tayo not less than 60 months. Now, let's proceed sa pension trust. So, pension trusts, these are deductions related sa mga contributions related sa mga contributions to a private pension plan for the benefit of the employees of the employer. Okay, so requisites, kailangan reasonable, established and maintained by employer. So, kailangan may reasonable private benefit plan for the payment of pensions to employees. So, purely for the benefit of the employees. And payment has not yet been allowed as a deduction. So, anong ibig sabihin dito? Payment of the benefits has not yet been allowed as a deduction. So, kung naalala nyo yung retirement benefit plan, di ba meron tayong plan na mismong kay employer and registered with BIR. So, meron tayong mga requisites dyan under the para maging non-taxable siya on the part of the employee. Kung wala namang reasonable private benefit plan registered with BIR, we will follow RA 7641. Meron ding mga requisites dun, like for example, at least 60 years old, not more than 65, yung service niya is 5 years with the employer. So, yun, para maging tax exempt on the part of the employee. So, yung mga benefits na marireceive nila is non-taxable. So, ang point lang dito is, para maging deduction itong pension trust na to, kailangan the payment of the benefits to the employee is not allowed as a deduction, okay, on the part of the employer. Kasi 'di ba lahat ng mga benefits na ibibigay ni employer are considered deduction on his part. So, para ma-recognize natin yung mismong contributions ni employer to the pension trust as a deduction, kailangan yung payment of the benefits are not considered as deduction. Okay. Next is the amount deductible. So we have here the contribution for current pension in full. Contribution for past pension, kailangan i-apportion mo in equal parts over a period of 10 years. So, itong current pension, also known as present service cost or normal cost. Past pension naman, past service cost. So, ang difference lang ng dalawa is that kapag past pension yan, it refers to the contribution para sa mga pension liability dun sa mga older employees na nag-accrue na during those years before na-establish ang pension trust. Okay, so to understand that, for example, merong pension trust si employer on 2020 pero meron na siyang mga employees around 2019 pa. So, yung mga employees niya hired in 2019, sila yung mga sinasabi natin dito na mga old employees na subject to this contribution for past pension. Yung mga employees na na-hired from 2020 and in present, sila naman yung for current pension. Okay, example problem. An employer maintains pension trust. So, we have 2024 and 2025 data. So, sa 2024, determine the deductible pension contribution for 2024. So, the current service cost is 500,000. Yung sa past service cost, di ba? Kailangan 10 years. So, i-divide mo yan ng 10 years. You have 60K. So, dito sa 2024, 560. Sa 2025 naman, still 600 plus 700K divided by 10 years. So, meron kang 70,000. 70 plus 60 plus 600, meron kang 730,000. Additional deduction under SIMEPA is this employer's actual contributions made to PERA or the personal equity and retirement accounts. So, meron tayong dagdag na deduction, which is 50% of the employer's actual contributions made to PERA. As long as kailangan mga private employers to, so yung mga government employers or government agencies, hindi sila makakapag-recognize niyan. And then, amount contributed by the employer is at least equal to the employee's contribution. Of course, subject to the maximum allowable contributions under RA 59505. So, as to the other allowable deductions, that will be your reading assignment. So, this will be the end of the topic, our topic on deductions from gross income.